When we try to determine if we live inside a computer simulation, we usually start by calculating processing power. We ask if a quantum supercomputer could theoretically render every atom in the observable universe without crashing. But treating this purely as an engineering problem is a category error. The true barrier to building a simulated universe isn't a lack of computing capacity. It is a debate over the architecture of the mind itself. Look at this intersection of organic flesh and digital data. The core question is, what is the required medium for consciousness to exist? The entire debate over whether our reality is virtual hinges not on building the machine, but on defining whether a machine can theoretically house a genuine feeling mind. Contemporary philosophy splits sharply into two architectural camps regarding the human brain. This map diagrams the divide. On the right, pure information processing views the mind as software. If algorithms are duplicated, consciousness emerges regardless of hardware. Opposing this is biological anchoring, arguing the mind requires specific organic hardware to possess true causal powers. To diagnose our reality, we can map the arguments of 5 major contemporary philosophers on this spectrum using this Codex Matrix. Any verdict on whether we are currently living in a simulation is entirely downstream from which side of this substrate divide a philosopher stands on. We start at the top of the matrix with the theorists whose frameworks provide the necessary architectural blueprint for a simulated universe to function. Neither Daniel Dennett nor Jerry Fodor actively champions the simulation hypothesis. Dennett often dismissed such thought experiments as philosophical games, yet their own theories make a simulated reality architecturally permissible. Fodor's theory of computationalism defines thinking as literal computation in mentalese, a mental machine language. The mind processes structured data sets based on strict logical rules. Dennett's functionalism views consciousness as a complex software protocol running on the brain. A programmed historical simulation would require exactly these specific cognitive subsystems to allow agents to process data, operate, and make decisions within its environment. If the mind is merely a protocol processing data, there is zero theoretical barrier to running that exact same program on silicon instead of carbon. David Chalmers elevates the simulation hypothesis to a central pillar of modern metaphysics. There is a common assumption that if we live in a simulation, our world is fake or a mere illusion. Chalmers rejects this completely. His first axiom borrows the it from bit theory from physics. Reality at its lowest level is built from bits of information. If our universe is simulated, the virtual objects around us are entirely real. They are simply rendered in bits instead of quarks. His second axiom is the ghost in the machine. A completely simulated brain running the correct code will output genuine, phenomenal consciousness. This framework strips the creator of any mysticism. The architect of the universe is simply a programmer operating in a higher-order reality. Under Chalmers' framework, a simulation is never an illusion. It is a perfectly valid metaphysical reality. But those on the other side of the substrate divide build theoretical walls that render a simulated mind impossible. John Searle argues through biological naturalism that code alone is never enough to generate a mind, regardless of structural complexity. A computer simulation of a rainstorm will never make a physical desk wet. Searle argues that, in the exact same way, a computer simulation of a biological process lacks the physical causal powers to produce actual consciousness. Thomas Nagel points to the subjective void. The inner perspective of what it is like to experience something cannot be reduced to objective mathematical descriptions. Code can replicate structural reactions, but it cannot program a subjective feeling. Ned Block issues a strict warning against confusing functional behavior with true phenomenal consciousness. A program acting sad is not a mind feeling sad. This leads to the concept of the philosophical zombie. A fully simulated world might simply be populated by entities that execute complex historical cycles perfectly according to their programming, but remain completely empty inside. For these biological naturalists, a perfectly programmed universe is structurally impossible. It would simply be a dead world populated by unfeeling code acting alive. When we review the completed matrix, the philosophical battle lines are clearly drawn based on what medium is required for consciousness. Alignment with functionalism makes a simulated universe metaphysically valid. Alignment with biological naturalism makes it a hollow universe of zombies. But this debate ultimately shifts away from hypothetical creators and back to the subjective experience of the human observer trapped within history. The question isn't whether hardware can be built to render a universe. The question is what it takes to spark true consciousness within that machine. Until a glitch is found that proves otherwise, reality remains entirely in the eye of the observer, regardless of whether it is rendered in carbon or in code.